Okay, so in this video we're going to show you how to edit cabinets in the edit menu. So here you want to select a cabinet, so double click, opens up this box. That works for all cabinets, pretty much all cabinets and all parts with the exception of appliances. So if you have this cabinet, double click anywhere. So let's start with this one. So this first one is also a bunch of details that you can change here without opening the cabinet, with height, depth. Frameless cabinets depth is to back side of the door, so the actual case. So if your depth is set to 24, when you include the door, if it's a 3/4 door, it's 24 3/4 deep. So then everything else here is, you know, if you want to set stretching parameters and stuff like that, but we don't worry about that. Info tab, if you want to not come out in the cut list, you just select no cut list and it won't send out to the CNC. That's helpful for floating shelves, which we make manually and stuff like that. So other than that, you don't really have to worry too much about these things. End panels, if you want to change the type of end panel, say you want a shaker door instead of a panel like that. This is just different settings you can change. You can override it into different door settings, but we'll deal with that later. So as you can see, it's changed it to a shaker door. So override, we should say use defaults. So now you have a shaker door there. So now if you want to override the door, say if it's a glass door instead of a regular door, you click here and override. Otherwise it's picking up the job setting, which is under the job tab here. So you can select glass door. And because we have no doors, these are all drawers. It's not going to change anything. But otherwise it would change it. So we're just going to change it back to job settings. Pulls is if you need to change the type of pull. Pretty rare you'd want to do that, but you can change a bunch of settings here, which are somewhat irrelevant, but also come in handy from time to time. Textures is another way you can, change the textures. You can open this menu, you can select whatever textures you need it to be. Interior texture, you can change it if you want it to be maple. Doesn't matter too much in this case. So price, we don't use this pricing. This is kind of an optional pricing setup, which we may do at some point. Shape tab, if you want to go into the shape tab, you want to change the different edges. So it's as if you're looking at the cabinet vertically like this from the top down. So right now I have this set as a finished side. This is set as a front face, which is why we can add drawers and such. This is set as an unfinished end. So if I change this one to a finished end, it will add the applied door, which we have a setting for that, which I'll show you in a bit. You can change it back to unfinished. If you just change it to a left end, it will pick up, click OK. If you just change it to a left end, it will pick up this setting right here. And you can set the back. Here's where you can actually adjust different things. So say you need to adjust the front edge of this. Could either be the left or the right, but we'll say 0.75 on the back. So we can see we've added 3/4 of an inch to the back. Let's change that back to 0. We've set this up to add 4 3/4 for our toe kick at the bottom here, so that it automatically adds that in there. So the face tab, here you can add different, change your face profile. So you can clear that out so you have nothing. You can split it, and that would, this little split, horizontal, vertical. You can split it into sections. So if you want 4 equal drawers maybe, so we got here 4 equal drawers. and that will split it into 4 7¼ drawers. You can put a split in it that way. You can split it into, if you want, 2 equal doors or drawers. And then say the top one you actually want it to be doors, so you split it that way. Or you can just change that from that to pair. Now I'll change it to a pair of doors. You can also clear that. Split it vertically into 2 equal doors. You can also change this to a panel. So it's basically just a panel right on the face like that. And you can hinge it left or right there. If this was a cabinet with multiple faces, say if I change this one to a right face, which potentially is pretty rare, but for this case we're going to do it. So I'm going to change here to the right face, and then we can add another, say a big drawer from the side. There's a bunch of issues that may happen when you do stuff like that, but sometimes you need to do things like that. The interior tab is, you always want to set up your face tab first, and then set up your interior if you're doing something custom. So we're going to split it. Usually it's automatically set as an adjustable shelf, and if you hit this, it will give you a 3D or a different view of what the cabinet looks like. So I'll usually go to perspective. As you can see, it's drilling 7 holes, which is set up in our parameters. So in this case we have a drawer, so I'm going to just go back to the shape tab, change that back to a right end, and then back to the interior. So we have a shelf. It could also be a fixed shelf, which gives you these tightest pinholes set up by our parameters. You can change it to a stretcher, which gives you a stretcher right across, helpful for if you have drawers. And then if you have, so if I clear that out and I set up a drawer door like that, maybe I want these to be pair, so we set up a pair. Then we go back over here, and I want a stretcher here so that the top of these doors have something to close onto. Otherwise they'll just kind of be flopping in the wind. So if we go to here and we add a stretcher, so change adjustable, we change it to a stretcher, and we set it close to this split. This is where, under the face tab, is where these two faces come together. Bring it semi-close, and then you can lock it center, you can lock it flush to the bottom, flush to the top. In this case, probably center or flush top would suffice, so the doors close onto it. And then we'll add, say, an adjustable shelf. You can also add a tray, which would be a rollout shelf or a rollout drawer. Open the doors and it will roll out. We've set it up to automatically put in a 1-inch spacer block there. So as you can see, it's got a 1-inch space there. You can also change the height of it if you want a super high one, say like 8 inches, you get an 8-inch tray. Under the parameters tab is where you can add something custom. If you really want to get deep into it, you can add custom parameters. So we wouldn't typically mess with this too often, but there's a bunch of parameters you can change, like the pair gap. So if you need 3/16 or a 1/4 inch pair gap, you can change that here. You select the parameters you want to bring in, you click OK. These 2 parameters have already been brought in, so let's just delete that one. You can't edit it here, which is a little bit annoying, but also it's no big deal. You just click it, highlight it, bring it in, and it's always here. So this is where we'll often change whether we have an applied door here or not. So if I want just to have a panel that's green and not this whole door applied to the end, just click no doors there, and then it will change it so it's just a panel we can cut on the CNC and add it there. So this here is the back recess. So that's, if I go to the top view, you can see there's no recess here. If I want it to be, I don't know, 1 inch, you'll add 1 inch tab there. A lot of times we'll make that 3/16 for wall cabinets and then none for an island cabinet, and then that way if it's easier to screw the back panel on. This little gap void here swallows up some bumps in the wall, saves us a few times, and then it also allows us to cut this off if we need to, if we have a bump in the wall, say like right in this area. So we'll change that back to 0, change that back to applied doors. Now I have the parts tab. This is where it's handy to see what are all the parts that are getting cut. So in this case I have doors. This is the left and right door. You can also double click that. It will open this menu. This is a whole nother beast in itself, this menu. You can get into changing the shape of it, changing the operations, flipping the part over. You can select and delete. You can move it to the opposite face. We're just going to skip that for now. So, you know, parts, say I need to recut a part, I need to get the size. So it's 8 by 22 and 13/16. You can also change it to millimeters here, and I'll give you the millimeters sizes. So I need a drawer side that's 555.6 millimeters by 120.7. So let's change it back to inches. Then we have the hardware tab. This tells you how many pieces of hardware are going in there. So we have front adjustment dowels that go in there. We have drawer guides. So that's the drawer guides that are right here. We have the drawers for the tray, which is this one here. We have 3 handles. We have 4 hinges there. 24 conformat, which, you know, in our case this is just screws, so we're just assembling it with screws. And you can see here the reason it pulls that is because we have pre-drills on the CNC for all of our pieces, so you're getting pre-drill there, then we can screw it all together. So conformat is basically just a regular screw. Spacers, again, are those, it's pulling up the spacer blocks and how many you're going to use. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 spacer blocks. And then there's a notes tab. We don't really use this, but if you needed to add something, you can add like it needs custom whatever in that box and save it. And that's it for that. So we're going to reopen this. If you want to edit the size, this side here, so I want to change this so it's got a high rail on the bottom. Hit section, and then you can select here. So I did that on the shape tab, and then I selected the side it was on, section it, and then you can go here. You can then make the bottom margin say 6 inches. And that's common for if you're trying to do baseboard trim around an island or something like that. And if you have a full back panel, same idea applies, where you can split this here, similar to the door menu. Split it. You can add that vertical panel there. You can change all the widths of that too. And the last nice thing is that if you have any questions on any of these and I'm not covering it enough, you can always hit this question mark, and then it will pop this up, and it gives you a full description of what's going on here. So this is the whole explanation of everything that's happening on this tab. Product editor tab in the interior. So that's each tab has its own thing.